we do now.
Anything, I thought
So
was
have to
falling on
approve
the
the
floor.
motion, the minutes for February 1st, if everybody's okay with that, or accept them. All in favor? Aye. All right. Under communications and announcements, we have a letter from South Calamar Lane Motel Group. We have a letter from A. Phillips regarding the Schultz Woodstock water course permit. We have the Town of Woodstock Community-Wide Greenhouse Gas Emissions Inventory from Ken Panza. And we have a letter from some residents regarding the proposed scenic overlay law. So, our scheduled workshop is going to be on open meetings law, Robert's Rules of Order, what prompts Ulster County Planning Board review, and short environmental assessment forms, and the WEC recommendations for critical environmental areas. So, I'm going to have our secretary, Melissa, guide us through the next case here.
Okay. So, in front of you is a binder. I tried to give you all a pen, and perfect, Jennifer's here. Have a seat, guys. Welcome. All right, so I spent weeks going over all this. Peter and I had talked about kind of what we wanted to do. You know, every year we have kind of like a refresher course, and these are definitely important things that we think are good. We'll move here. So, on top of your binders, I left a new schedule. I'm canceling the April 18th meeting because my godson is a senior and he made National Honor Society, and I'm going. Before he goes to college. So I wanted just so you guys can mark your calendars. All right, we're going to start with open meetings law. So if you open it up, again, you have pens, you have highlighters. I talk forever, bear with me, but here we go. This came from New York State, right off the Committee of Open Government. When COVID happened, things changed drastically. But they really tried to adhere to what they always did. And open meeting law is that. It's open to the public. The public has a right to hear what you're saying. They have a right to know what's going on. Hear and know. All right. Keep flipping. Kristen O'Neill, the assistant director, put together this lovely webinar that we're going to go through. If you ever really bored, you can read Public Officers Law, Article 7, Sections 100 to 111. So the Open Meetings Law was passed in 1976. And these are the two main reasons. It is essential that public business be performed in an open and public manner, and that the citizens be fully aware of and able to observe the performance of public officials. This is a whole nother important part. Citizens have the right to attend and listen to the deliberations and decisions that go into the making of public policy. During a public hearing, we give the public, the contiguous neighbors, anyone else, opportunities to speak. That's completely appropriate. All of our other meetings, it is at the discretion of the chair whether or not we let the public speak. Which you've heard me say a lot, the discretion of the chair. Citizens have the right to attend and listen. You guys are volunteers. You give your heart and soul and all your time to this town, and you show up. I do what I can to make everyone respect you and give you an orderly meeting. Public bodies. I'm not going to read everything word for word. You guys have it. This is just the definition of public bodies. Any entity for which a quorum is required. As you know, keep flipping. When they talk about public bodies, if two or more people have been given the authority to act collectively, for us it would be the chairman and the vice chairman who are voted in every year. Is quorum necessary to conduct business? Yes, we have to have 4 at every meeting, or we can't make motions. It's not a legal meeting. We've done a few things and we have retracted and then re-voted with COVID and crazy. Is the committee made up solely or primarily of members of the larger public body? Does the committee serve as a state statutory function? Is that statutory function more than really providing advice? In the alternative, is the entity purely advisory in nature with no statutory duties on final decision-making authority? Definition of quorum. Our number is 4, which is why you get emails from me and you hear me all the time, please show up, please come in person. Okay. So as a result of COVID, I'm on page number 8, Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022. On April 9th, 2022, Governor Hochul signed Chapter 56 relating to the New York State budget, state fiscal year. Included in the bill is an amendment to the open meetings law to expand the use of video conferencing by public bodies to conduct open meetings under extraordinary circumstances, regardless of a declaration of emergency. This provision will be in effect until July 1st, 2024, unless extended by legislature. Before COVID, we never used Zoom. You guys, most of you had been here, there was a tape recorder recording the meetings. Zoom has lots of positives and lots of negatives, but it's become handy, and we definitely, it can be helpful if we use it tactfully. Under extraordinary circumstances, as volunteers in a public body and a member of the planning board, under extraordinary circumstances means that you are expected to show up. Zoom is really just for that. You had surgery. If you're caregiving, there's a list, I'll go through it, but it's not, it was more put out for the public, and we've been really loose about it because we want to have a forum. We want to have these meetings. I don't want applicants calling me 3 months and asking me why I haven't gotten them on the agenda. So the new provision is not meant to change or curtail what has always been permitted or required of public body. So that's important. It was really intended to expand public participation and the ability to observe. So connecting multiple physical locations that are open to in-person public attendance. So in-person public attendance, the story that I was told, and the easiest way for me to explain this is, a long time ago, Mr. Supervisor went on vacation in Florida, and he was staying at the Marriott, and there was a meeting, and he was gonna Zoom in. That hotel had to be in a legal notice, and it had to be an open place. That's the only way he was, so anyone in Florida could came and attended, and it has to be treated as an open place. This is the in-person, you can't have it under extraordinary, so like you guys in your home, when you're Zooming in, then it changed a little bit, but if we don't, it's kind of like you're almost becoming the public. In person, find one. If a public body is using the first type, physical locations open to the public. So this is required legal notice and posting. So basically it has to say the meeting's at 45 Como and Marriott in Daytona, Florida. And it has to be open to the public and it has to be published. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal to show up and be present. So this is where our 4 comes in. I have to have 4 here for a legal meeting. So a public body may, in its discretion, use video conferencing to conduct its meetings pursuant to the requirements of this article, provided that a minimum number of members are present to fulfill the public body's quorum requirement in the same physical location or locations. So this is where we have to have 4 here. If I have 4 here and I have a quorum, I don't care who's meeting. I'll accommodate any of you to Zoom. You're just adding to the vote. But I need 4 here publicly for it to be a meeting. This kind of gets into the extraordinary circumstances. They threw disability in here, which was good because it wasn't really ever acknowledged before. So when we first started, I was really all gung-ho on like Judy and Don should be able to Zoom anytime that they want. But Judy's great when she shows up, unless she's sick. She's watching. But you know, I was, and from what I read with all the things, they're supposed to, the town board, when they approved it, and they did, and they wrote their resolution, but it's literally like, the extraordinary circumstances are supposed to be like within that resolution and exactly what they were, so it's supposed to be approved. So we've been really lax with that, but we're making it work. The governing board of a county, city, town, or village must adopt a local law or public body must adopt a resolution, or the Senate and Assembly must adopt a joint resolution following the public hearing. So the town board did this, and this was to make video conferencing, the ability to use Zoom. They did everything. They did everything the right way. I have to tell you how many hours Ashley and I during COVID spent together with our heads together. Chapter 56. The public body must establish written procedures governing member and public attendance consistent with this section. And such written procedures shall be conspicuously posted on the public website of the public body. Members of the public body must be physically present at any such meeting unless such member is unable to be physically present at any such meeting location due to extraordinary circumstances. As set forth in the resolution and written procedures adopted pursuant to the open meetings law, including disability, illness, caregiving responsibilities, or any other significant or unexpected factor or event which precludes the member's physical attendance at such a meeting, except in the case of executive sessions. I'm pretty lucky we haven't really used executive sessions, but there will come a time and that's not perfect. But it has to be announced and put out before and all that stuff. All right, this goes into extraordinary circumstances, but I think I've kind of heard from there a lot. They're required to have an official website, the town does. During COVID, we were completely remote, so basically the state says that if we're under a state of emergency, state disaster emergency, we are entitled to go back to all Zoom. I do think that they'll have it more together and it won't be like what was it every week that we were trying to figure out what we were doing. Let's hope we never go through that again. So there's a report. No later than January 1st, 2024, the report came out in December, and it's basically a report all on open meetings, and it's given back to, it's done and then given to government local. I had that, I didn't print it, it's, I think, 18 pages, but if you're interested, I can absolutely give you that. This is where they threw, and they added the addendum of 103A5 with people with disabilities. Okay, so notice, page 26 is where I'm at. This kind of covers legal notices and what we do with public hearings and just announcing meetings, date, time, and location. If appropriate, instructions for virtual attendance must be given prior to every meeting to the media, placed in a designated physical location. If the agency body is an active website, it must be posted on that website. As you guys know, I'm pretty stringent on the preliminary agenda comes out a week before and the final agenda comes out the day of. It adjusts a little bit, but it pretty much stays the same. So this is like legally from the state. At least 72 hours prior to a meeting scheduled, at least 1 week in advance. We do a little bit more than that. I can stick with the 1 week because that's what's in the town code. For meetings on short notice, notice must be given to the extent practicable at a reasonable time prior to the meeting. The courts have suggested that the propriety of scheduling a meeting less than a week in advance and providing less than 72 hours notice is dependent upon the actual need to do so. Extraordinary circumstances, video conferencing is used to conduct a meeting. The public notice for the meeting shall inform the public that video conferencing will be used where the public can view and or participate in such a meeting. Where required documents and records will be posted or available and identify the physical location of the meeting or the public hearing. Records scheduled to be discussed. On October 19, 2021, this all became as a result that all the documents in our meeting are supposed to be posted online. I don't do that. 9 times out of 10, I'm preparing the documents up until that day. You can attest for that, and hers would be also. You guys know, but I give anyone anything that they ask for all the time. I'm very transparent. A lot of other towns haven't really come, it's just too much to be able to put out. So this amendment simply places a 24-hour minimum time frame for making the records available. But at any time, they can come in and look at the file. regulations, policies, or any amendment thereto, records or portions thereof that are public under FOIL. Agency may but not be required to spend additional monies to implement this section. Does not apply to records discussed in executive session. Minutes. Minutes must include motions, proposals, resolutions, any matter formally voted upon and the votes thereon. I do your minutes pretty accurately and detailed because I found that it helped. Therese taught me wrong. If extraordinary circumstances video conferencing is used, it must include which, if any members participated remotely, which is why you guys always see me like jotting stuff down all the time. Executive sessions, only necessary if actions are taken, must be available within 2 weeks for open session, 1 week for executive session. Some towns planning boards only meet once a month. So a lot of this stuff is kind of curtailed for the town, but this is basically how the state runs everything. It does not matter whether the minutes are unapproved or in draft form. I didn't know that. You just vote them in and that way they're sealed. Okay, so she goes on to talk about more about minutes. Recording. Any meeting of a public body that is open to the public shall be open to being photographed, broadcast, webcast, or otherwise recorded and or transmitted by audio or video means. I didn't realize that they added this until I went through these pages. Agency is not obligated to record, so we don't have to do something. We can go back to, we're a little step up. I did buy a recorder from Amazon that I can plug into the computer. But the agency may establish reasonable rules to limit disruption and interference. Executive session, again, we've been really fortunate and we tried to be transparent. We haven't really needed that. But a motion must be made and voted upon during the open meeting. So basically, if we felt the need for an executive session, the meeting prior, we would have to announce it, make a motion, and then we would set it up and it would literally be on the agenda for the following meeting, and then we wouldn't be recorded, public isn't open, it's closed door. And you have to have the specificity, so for us, it could be like case number, blah, blah, blah. I'm not gonna go too much into executive session because we don't need, and page 35 is personnel. They don't like this word, and that's fine, you can never use the word personnel, but I don't think you should name people in the numbers either, so. Exemptions, behind closed doors, this is still talking about that. If an exemption applies, the open meetings law does not, as if the open meetings law does not exist. So section 108, you guys kind of know this. Then it gets into the legal aspect, judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings, except proceedings, deliberations of political committees. So executive sessions could be like between you and the lawyer. Stuff like that, if you just need to have a conversation, something like that. Any matter made confidential by federal or state law. Technically, conversations and advice from your attorney that we, typically online, that we use, are confidential. It's inter-office. But there's a fine line between foilable and confidential. And it's hard because when FOIL comes across and it says, any email contact, that's how we all contact them. So, although it has the confidential, it's still an email. So it's like, there's a fine line. So, again, and I know I've said this every year, be careful in the emails that you do. You get huge foils for any communication between board members. Any, Michelle and I are bombarded by that a lot. We can't really be selective with foils. We have to go through the file, we have to see what we have, and it all has to go. It's a foil. Non-compliance and enforcement. Committee on Open Government does not have an enforcement authority. Enforcement is through the initiation of, can you all say what we don't want to happen? Article 78. That's our worst nightmare. That's a lot of fun. We don't want to be sued. We try to work with people as much as we can. Then it all goes to the court. And what the town's problem and your problem. Questions? Anyone is welcome to contact our office or phone. They were great. I actually called them and they sent this in. But any questions? Oh, you guys are so good. Thank you, students. Shoot, I'm gonna have to go back to teaching. All right. So again, I of all frequently asked questions, and this is handy. And there's a few good questions, so I have that. If you want it, let me know. All right, part two, because I know you guys don't want to spend a moment with me as much as I would love that. All right, so Robert's Rules of Order, it gave you a lot of different things, but I'm just going to kind of, okay, I bought the planning board a book. The real book is 800 pages. Nope, we got the mini one. Anyone can borrow it. So I taught before, so the whole meeting, give people respect, comes natural to me. Everybody has a right, you know, like, and that's, so for me, Robert's Rules of Order makes sense. Some people it doesn't. It's really stemmed from Parliament and how a meeting is structured and how, that's why we make motions, that's why. So I printed a bunch of stuff, but I'm just gonna go on. There was one part that was for electronic meetings, and it was just handy and kind of good to know. I love the back page of this, and it had the little pictures, and I just thought it was smart. Follow the agenda. You guys know, I keep a really tight agenda, so I can get you in, I can get you to deal with what you want, nothing else, and then get you out. Let the group do its own work. Don't overcommand. Sorry if I do, remind you. Control the flow of the meeting by recognizing members who ask to speak. For the most part, most of our applicants are super friendly, super respectful to you guys, and I think they appreciate you, and I get lots of compliments and thank yous, and that's good. Let all the members speak once. So members, that's you guys, once before allowing anyone to speak a second time. Common courtesy. When discussions get off track, gently guide the group back to the agenda. Model courtesy and respect and insist that others do the same. Help to develop the board's skills in parliamentary procedure by properly using motions and points of order. We do that really well. Give each speaker your undivided attention. Keep an emotional pulse on the discussions. Allow consensus to have the final authority. So this was just, it was nice, it was a good one. That was boardeffect.com. The next page came from utah.gov, and it was just how it started, the basics. So like I said, this really came from parliamentary procedures. It was justice and courtesy for all, maintenance of order, consideration of one item at a time, all sides get heard, ability for each member to provide input, majority rule, protection of the rights of all members, including the minority. Some boards cite this at the organizational meetings and say we use Robert's Rules of Order. The town of Woodstock does not, but this does run smooth, and this is Parliament, and it makes sense. So this goes through, it says basic principles, a quorum must be present, all members have equal rights, privileges, and obligations. No person should speak unless recognized by the chair. You know, we all respect each other, so a few things are a little crazy, and we keep things moving. One question at a time may be considered, and only one person may have the floor at any time. Members have a right to know what the pending question is and to have it restated before a vote is taken. Every once in a while, you hear me repeat something, whether it was an applicant or whether it was you guys, and it gets kind of lost in the shuffle, I'll pull it back out there. Full and free discussion of every main motion is a basic right. The majority decides a question. We've all seen that with resolutions and voting. Silence gives consent. Those who do not vote allow the decision to be made by those who do vote. The chair should always remain impartial. You have a good chair. Basic definitions, you guys know this. Motion, second, amendment, presiding officer, chair, roll over, presiding officer, chair. To introduce business, he does this. To recognize speakers, to determine if a motion is in order, to keep discussion focused on the pending motion, to maintain order, we both do that. To put motions to a vote and announce results. All right, I'm not going to go on this. Talks about debate and handling main motion, but you guys did it really well. So then I found this. Let's see. Robert Rules of Order simplified. Again, you want to bring up a new idea before the group. After recognition by the president of the board, the chairman, a second is required for the motion to go to the floor. This is, we're not as parliamentary. We are the town of Woodstock. Again, common courtesy, we respect each other. I've never heard any of you guys argue heatedly. We pretty much keep it dry. There is a point you can move to close the debate. So if that did happen, one of you has the right to say, I move to close the debate. until recognized by the chair. Personal remarks or side discussions during debate are out of order, which is why you hear me a lot at these debates. Only one question at a time may be considered, and only one person may have the floor at any one time. What are the 5 rules for parliamentary procedure? Basic rules. Same kind of things. Only one subject may be before a group at one time. Negative motions are generally not permitted. Only one person may speak at any given time. All members have equal rights. Each item presented for consideration is entitled to full and free debate. Basic understanding, again, equal rights, one item of business, the majority vote rules, an impartial chairperson must be present. When debating your motions, listen to the other side. Focus on issues, not personalities. Avoid questioning motives and be polite. New York State came out with, I don't know if I gave you guys this one, model rules for public bodies. Do you want to see about it or no? Again, I tell you what, I worked on this. I gave you guys this too. This was just, they literally put this on New York State site, and it's like public access to meetings. Section 1, purpose and scope. The people's right to witness and observe the governmental decision-making process in action is basic to our society. You know that. This kind of goes into recordings, public notice, and severability. So I have that if anybody wants it. Every year, the town board does an organizational meeting, and this is where it kind of sets up all of this. So, I printed. On January 9th, 2024, our town board has an organizational meeting. And it literally goes through with a million different things. It designates the official newspaper, appoints the media notice person, bank report, cost, return fee. Okay, I can go on and on and on. This is our members, this is our boards. But this is what they do, and we kind of fall under it. Rules of order. So this is their blip, offered by Supervisor McKenna, seconded by Council Member Ricky. Be it resolved to adopt the following rules of order for the conduct of town board meetings in the year 2024. The supervisor or the deputy supervisor shall conduct meetings. If 2 or more town board members request an item to be placed on the agenda, it will be included. Public be heard shall occur at the end of each regularly scheduled meeting, allowing up to 5 members of the public to speak to the board for up to 2 minutes each. In instances the town board is polled, it shall be by the alphabetical order by last name. It will be a courtesy to the board and public, but not a requirement for resolutions to be posted on the agenda prior to the meeting. Resolutions not posted on the agenda, except those amending resolutions on the table, shall be considered after agenda items have been disposed. All voted aye. So that's basically what we have to follow, and that's why Robert's Rules of Order is. It's a good reminder of everything, but just so you know, that's how our town has handled it, and you know, they know what they have to do. All right. So, I'm going to talk about county referral a little bit. County referral is confusing. Every town does it differently. Basically, the first sheet I gave you is the matrix, which is what we use. And the golden rule is within 500 feet and outside 500 feet. Right, Peter? That's kind of really where we go. But there's a lot of, other stuff. So, the next one. I gave you guys an email. When I first started, 2020. So this was my email to all the people, and this is what I got out of it. And I didn't even know at that time what type 1 action was. So you can see my little notes. So I try to go through and look at every application we have and see where we fall. Most of what we see are type 2, neg deck, all that. I included not going through, but again, this is for you. Site plans and special permits, variances, local laws, comprehensive plans. This is the Ulster County Planning Board, December 2006, land use referral act. It's pretty hefty. I never read the whole thing. I pretty much used my email and my chart. And Mr. Dennis Doyle is always a great help, as you know, I've told you for a few things. Next page, I thought this was beautiful. Dutchess County Planning and Development developed this in October 2007. But it's the zoning referral process. And they go through, and this is exactly what we all do. ZBA, Planning Board, what I do anytime I look at this. This is really helpful. I thought if you guys were curious, you could go through and do that.
That's page 4.
Huh?
Page 4.
Page 4? carry these binders, like, I bought ones at Target that were really nice, and then our lovely Michelle said, no, we have them in return, so I'm gonna return them for $40, I think. Yeah, okay, I'm up to the EAF. Okay, good? Okay. Yeah, sorry. All right, so this kind of goes under seeker, but every single application that we see, with the exception of the short-term rentals, because that was just a crazy blip of the law, every single application the planning board sees is required to do a short year rental. This form that is in there, every single case, Peter and I sign off on. 98% is usually always no or small impact may occur. That's why they're neg deck, and that's why they're type 2. Just, when people call and ask all these questions, and they don't want a project to happen, and you all know, we see it every day. There is an extensive application for every single thing in the planning board, as you all know, you see them, you get them in emails, you see them all. They've already filled out a building permit application, and they've already went to the building, now they need planning board review, whether it's a special use permit, not even talking timber harvest or subdivisions, because that's solely us, they do not go through the building department. Site plan review, special use permit, wetlands and water source. They're the three that go through building. They just went to building, they say what they wanna do, they have plans, then they get referred to us. At that point, they have a whole other application. It's not a 2-page application. Our applications are like 10, 12 pages. It's extensive. People are super overwhelmed by it. We get through it. The EAF is done online. There's no way. You literally find your area where you live, and it prompts everything. This is where we find out if the Indiana bat is a concern, the timber rattlesnake, wetlands. I mean, it triggers everything. So, typical building permit, you never have to do this. Come to the planning board, that's it. Just want you to know, every single case you see has this in the file and has gone through this and is doing your environmental duty. All right. Wow, any questions? We made it so much quicker than I thought we would.
Where did you say you're going to find all this information? You said you go to one place.
Oh, no, this is a million different places.
Okay.
But the open meetings law
No.
is.
You just talked about the EAL, and you said.
Oh, the EAF.
You said
DC has a really great, and they recently changed it. In my office, I have a long EAF binder, which is pretty cool, and you can come anytime and check it out.
But it's on the state
It's on
website.
the state
Well, you
website.
can
the
put in, you
DEC
can put in a
website.
section that'll tell you what the endangered species, all of it.
Yeah.
It fills it all out.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, on that, yes. And every applicant comes in and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, I have nothing to do with that, it's auto-generated. But it's beautiful, it answers all our questions.
That's on the DC website.
Yes, and I can help you, so show up or call me anytime. All right, so the last item. God, guys, you're a good students. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about WEC and the CEA. They did a great job. We were all very happy when they put in that busy with the CEA. But this is the letter, Peter had asked me to get in contact and ask if they had any recommendations. So we had done that in August of 2023, and they worked with some people that helped them get it together, because WEC has kind of went through some numbers lately. But December 11th, 2023, they sent us this, and you guys all got it. But, this was their recommendations. So this was addressed to us, the planning board, and we asked for it. I'm gonna read through it, but then I'm gonna comment as I go along, just so you're aware of. So, the definition of critically environmental area is an acknowledged place of high environmental concerns, and highly, it can have a lot of things, it triggers a lot. But because it's acknowledged as a CEA, does not mean that you can tell someone that they cannot develop their land. It's an acknowledgement. And just keep that in mind with this. This is wonderful, this is great, but someone buys it, they have no idea, buys the property, they have no idea they have the right to own it. So we gotta work with that. All right. feedback from Gretchen Stevens and Amanda Faison of Hudsonia, as well as on research of the protections neighboring towns have implemented for the critical environmental areas. So this was good. For the Xenowood CEA, Gretchen Stevens remarked that a CEA is not meant to impose land use restrictions. Rather, it's intended to educate landowners, developers, town officials, and the general public. The only legal requirement is that when a project is proposed on CEA land, the CEA must be explained by that project's lead agency via written description of CEA's unique features. Further, the agency must detail the potential environmental impacts of the proposed project. Go back again, we do this for every single application, whether it's CEA or not. The main features of the Xenowood CEA include its large forest, rated by DEC to be in the top 10% forest in the Hudson Valley, wetlands, 20 or more vernal pools, an unconsolidated aquifer, and several rare species. Gretchen's top 3 concerns regarding development in the Xenowood CEA would be fragmentation, which means we've talked about, we have a wetland and a wetland, making a corridor. We've seen plans, we did it with quite a few different cases where we distinguished an area as conservation, but if there was concern, we preserved the whole area. And that's kind of, so fragmentation would be, here's my parcel, I'm in this CEA, and I have 20 acres, and I'm gonna make 10 lots, 2 acres. You know, kind of all over with no consideration of what the formation is. Well, we do that in simple subdivisions, but, you know, they're required to do things before they come to us. Okay. Buffer zones that are too small to be effective. Again, we're in Woodstock. Our buffer zones are pretty hefty. With the scenic overlay and the wetlands and water course, we have stuff in place that we use in every case that is more than other towns even come close to having. Stream crossings that are interrupted by driveways and roadways. Absolutely. Based on this information, for development in CEA designated parcels, the LEC recommends increase the green space from 50% of the parcel to 85% of the parcel. The town of Red Hook has implemented an 85% green space requirement. I don't know if we legally can do that. I'm gonna be honest with you. We have to follow the code. And the green space kind of has to be dictated by the town board, and it has to be set in play. Number 2, stipulate that items such as a sewer treatment plant, golf course, or a landing strip cannot be included in count as green space in light of the deleterious environmental effects such as treatment. Number 3, stipulate that homes should be built on land that has already been cleared or along the edge of the forest to reduce forest fragmentation. Typically, we see applications, especially when they're larger applications that have been engineered, have had, before they even come to us, usually, they've had wetlands delineated, they've had, I mean, if we ask for that, they will get that, but like, they've had all these tests, they've done the engineering. Yes, every once in a while, people have no idea what they buy, and they're in with us for years. But we're pretty lucky, and people want to preserve, we're seeing more of that than what we used to. Cluster homes together to minimize roadways into and out of the parcel to further reduce forest fragmentation. Perform water studies so that culverts are installed on roadways and driveways that allow for safe passage for animals that mitigate from vernal pools to open land and or who migrate from vernal to vernal pools. Most bigger plans with bigger roads and driveways, we require SWIP, which is stormwater prevention plan. That's completely engineered, and it has to do with a lot of this and protecting the land and not having major flooding. Increase setbacks from vernal pools and water course to 100 feet from the now established 50 feet. Gretchen stated that wider is better. We don't have any control over that. We're the planning board, not the town board. Consider legislation to increase buffers in aid of habitat connectivity. Again, we have seen applicants come in and put things together and say, okay, we're going to conserve this. We're doing this here. We're going to cluster the houses. Usually, we've been really lucky with our applicants who will work with so many lots, and then he scaled back. Gretchen further stated that she would advise the planning board not to use the term restrictions when discussing a CEA. Instead, it should mention features of concern. Absolutely. The planning board may ask potential developers to conduct pertinent environmental surveys. As an example, the planning board could ask, is that the kind of wetland that supports the damselfly? The rec also looked at the zoning codes of neighboring towns, specifically Red Hook. Red Hook is so conservative. Like, if you went to their website, like, they're very pro, environment. As they are in close proximity to Woodstock and have similar environmental features. Some of the protections that Red Hook has implemented are as follows. Setbacks from streams and water features are established from the high water mark. Alright, I'm not gonna read, but yes, they have the 100 feet of the stream bank. The minimum front yard increased by 100% for all structures and parking areas. We also don't have a lot of farmland. Our huge parcels, Red Hook has a lot more huge parcels than we have, except for like, of course, in town. The open space area defined by the required front yard must be managed in a way that preserves significant existing vegetation, plant specimens, landforms, and water features, nurtures tree planting and other natural landscaping efforts, preserves stone walls and similar features. You guys do this with every application we see. You talk about trees, you talk about what's going out, what's coming in, we ask the applicants to show us. Common driveways and shared utility services for building sites are required to reduce intrusion and fragmentation of green spaces. Clustering is the preferred residential land development technique for lands in critical environmental areas. For lots where requiring the double of a front yard would create practical difficulty because of the regularly shaped lots. Because the lot's non-compliant, Red Hook offers the alternative of screening all parking areas and structures with vegetation or burning, and a stipulation that those screening features will be maintained or will be permanent. Please feel free to reach out to Lex. We love that.
Is the
Go on
town
site
considering this?
What?
Is the town board considering these recommendations?
I don't know if the town board even needs those recommendations. That was our question. When we made the
Isn't that
CEA.
wording in some of the zoning laws that are supposed to be reviewed and other things?
Some of it is, some of it definitely is, not strategically to the CEA, no, not at all. So, wow, any questions?
I did notice in the Ulster County referral, they took out the proximity to highways. That's a big
Do you
change.
think it's because of DOT?
Yeah, it used to be within
I think
500
DOT
feet of any highway.
You and I have had this
Yeah.
conversation about like, oh, it's DOT, and I'm like, I don't want it if it's DOT. Do let DOT handle it.
It's not in, they took it out, so.
Yeah, yeah. Everything that I copied is really handy. I do have additional stuff. You guys know I'm here to support you in any way I can. I appreciate that you come, that you show up, that you love your town.
In the open meetings, though, the one thing I know you touched on, but probably the most important thing is about discussing cases with a quorum outside of the public hearing.
Not allowed. Yes.
And there's a little twist to that, because on site visits, we used to say that you couldn't have a quorum till it was site visit.
But they changed it.
And now they're saying you can, but you can't talk to each
But
other.
we can't talk.
Okay,
Yes.
got that.
He's yes, good, yes, yes. I started with the whole email thing, and I should have went more into that. But yeah, you are transparent, we are transparent. We are here, so is our public, and they call me all out, even when I'm not in there, and I'm very fine.
I guess one of the things you have to be careful during our public hearings or during any meeting in public is to discuss cases after we've
Yes,
passed on the case.
absolutely, I probably shouldn't have dropped that in there. Yes.
It's
we're not
tempting to
supposed
talk about it, but
But we're not
once we've closed the.
The voting is done, it's not up for discussion. Yeah, absolutely 100% correct, yes. And site visits are great, we've done, recently with our new members, we've done some really fun, awesome, like, group kind of, site visits. But again, we really can't discuss. Peter's great, he'll tell you what you need, what you're looking at, we'll discuss it at the meeting, and then he just shuts up and walks down the hill.
Don't we refer back to other cases
case that involves, let's say, wetlands, we can talk about, after the case is gone, we can talk about wetlands, but we shouldn't really relate it to that particular case. You know, if it's a question, a technical question we have, we can certainly discuss that. But, we can't really go over a specific case once we.
There's so much information, and what you guys do is such a big deal. I mean, despite the site plan reviews, the special use permits, the wetlands and water course, which are all dealt with in the building department. Remember, building department is enforcement. We alone handle timber harvest and subdivisions. We alone have to validate and make sure that it's done legally. And we do. We see surveys every once in a while, I'm sure Peter's been blaming me, that aren't legal. They try to sneak it in. So we have to know like what's required. We have to have that backup of the board of health approval. We have to see that there's access. We're the only one that see it. Then it goes to the county. And from what I hear, the county isn't even look at signatures anymore. They're just. So we have a town code that we use and we abide by. Commend you all. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good?
Thank you.
Our goal is to avoid Article 78.
Our goal is avoiding Article 78, yes. Exactly. And that's why you have me, after the fact, sending you emails and information to read. Yeah, no, yeah, you guys do a heck of a job, you really do, and that's why I do the job I do, I do it for you. All right, Peter, we have a full, you have two more motions.
Yep, we do. Okay, under unfinished business, we have to approve the draft resolution for SCP 24-0650 Sunny Waters LLC. So I'd like to make a motion to approve that resolution. Do I hear a second? That Sunny Waters is the one that you guys went to up on the.
Okay,
Yeah.
so yes. I make a motion to approve. I second it.
Ayes, ayes.
Four-wheel drive lane. All
No,
right.
this was this was the Jess Walker. Jess Walker.
Oh, he was, was right.
This is the overlay, the new overlay of the water, sorry.
On the creek.
I know, we used cases.
Wait, I'm sorry.
That's right.
This is,
No, he was Ed.
The water, this is the waterlay district
Right, that's right.
that just came in and you guys waited for a
Yeah.
motion.
It's in the wellhead.
Anyone's vote change?
no.
This is pretty easy.
Yeah,
With
it's
that
wellhead.
too, I just want to tell you guys, I read through everything, we require Board of Health, it's a very separate system. It was, I mean, Butch caught it, it was within the zone, so yeah, we have all that. All right.
Okay, folks, I'd like to make a motion for adjournment. All in favor? Aye.
Perfect.